Alright guys, TacticalRab again. So I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. It seems Simp of the new Subliner simply can't keep his mouth shut at the moment. Any potential controversial situation, Simp will be there to give his opinion as it currently stands. He gives an interesting statement yesterday on the women's CoD league that Alicat has been setting up and running for quite some time now. Parasite comes out and says, look, maybe Simp didn't mean it quite like that, but Simp says, no, I'm a grown man. I'm going to stand on my opinion on this one. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to dive into today. First here from Fame on the actual real CoD related stuff. This is not CoD related. So we saw yesterday Fame tweeted this out. We were thinking there was a lot of speculation as to whether Fame might be out of the Los Angeles Grillers, which, let's be honest, will they make a change at some point soon? Probably yes. Should it be for Fame? I'm not so convinced. They could do a two-man change, but as Fame says, not CoD related. Makes sense to be fair. They have a couple of matches left this upcoming weekend, but I'm pretty sure they're already solidified 0-5, maybe even 0-6, going into the losers bracket. I'm pretty sure that's a guarantee now, effectively. So, yeah, Los Angeles Grillers will be starting in losers at the major. If they don't make a run, presumably changes will happen shortly thereafter, but for now it doesn't seem like that is going to be the case. Wishing the best, of course, for Fame as well on whatever's going on behind the scenes in his personal life. This also on Subbase, so finally it's back in ranked play. It seems they have finally fixed the contest spots. When they changed all the spawns in late January, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think it's that long ago now, isn't it, really, that this contest spot still wasn't fixed. But there was a contest spot over the kind of P5 building where you could contest P3. That was fixed, but actually there was another one under the staircase that was not fixed, therefore they took it out of ranked play, and now finally it's back in. So, good stuff. Is Subbase still a great map? What are the pros going to do next? That's a question that I have, to be honest, in terms of, let's say, next time they make a map set change, what goes, what comes in? Is Vista coming in? Hopefully it will, but what's it going to come in for? Because some teams definitely disagree on what maps they want to stay, what maps they want to go. Subbase, I guess we'll see on that one. There's also this, the one Skid Row. I feel like of all the maps in the game, that spawn change is the most necessary on. Skid Row is not necessarily the one that, I think they should be making changes on. Now, Skid Row you can definitely change. I think you can definitely make it better. I would still potentially argue that having that P2 in the bottom of the building rather than a top is possibly a good idea, but they've never really explored that. But additional spawn points were added to decrease the probability of an unfavourable flip, they say. So they're changing the spawns a little bit on Skid Row to try and make the gameplay better, but I feel like if there are maps that you want to do that on, Skid Row I don't think is actually too bad. Really, I'm looking at even Karachi isn't great. Certainly a map like Invasion, I would say needs some work. But speaking of the spawns, they actually clarified in quite some depth here exactly the way the system works. And this is really quite frustrating to read and kind of gets across why we've had these problems so far this year and continue to have this exact issue. So as they say, one of many factors in spawn selection is to avoid a spawn trap. So, spawn traps have been a thing in CoD forever, but I guess the feeling was probably in like MW19 and beyond that we don't want to have new players trapped in the spawn. If you guys ever played any classic CoD game, I'm going to say Black Ops 2, not even Black Ops 3, even though there's another mention for this example, but let's say Black Ops 1 maybe, even Black Ops 2. Let's say you're playing Nuketown. There's a chopper gunner in the sky. You are getting spawn trapped so hard. Of course, this applies to older games as well, MW2 and all this type of stuff. And sure, is it frustrating to spawn in and immediately die to a chopper gunner? Yes. But at the same time, the guy earns that. And let's say there's not even a chopper gunner in the air. They've got full control of your building. You're just getting spawned in the back. There's nothing you can do. Now, sure, if they push too far, you will flip out. But spawn traps and control spawn traps are a part of the way that CoD plays. And, let's say you're playing domination or whatever. That is literally the point of the game. Get 2 flags, trap them at C flag or A flag or whatever, and play it from there. Apparently, though, in the latest situation of CoD, the developers don't really want players to feel bad because they keep getting spawn trapped again and again because the other team is actually playing good CoD. So they prefer that player to just spawn out randomly somewhere so that they can break the trap, rather than it meaning the other team has necessarily pushed too far. And that is what we are currently seeing, it seems. When a player dies soon after respawning, that spawn point is temporarily deprioritized. So if let's say you've got a great situation, you've got a great setup in hardpoint, and you're trapping these guys in a certain spawn point and doing a very good job of doing so. That guy spawns out there, he runs out of spawn, he dies within like 5 seconds to one of your ARs. He will not spawn there again, he will spawn out because they want to avoid a spawn trap and all this. If there are not enough safe spawn points available, a spawn flip is more likely to occur. By adding more spawns, the system has more safe options available, decreasing the chance of a spawn flip. So that's maybe what they're going for. But as Parasite says, having a well thought out setup and map control causes you to flip out people, gives people random spawns, I have seen enough. And Sasha says MW19 ruined comp, because this didn't used to be how it was. But the game has just been designed to create inherent randomness to effectively help like newer and terrible players, I guess. But unfortunately, that also occurs in the competitive games where this clearly shouldn't be the case, right? And as Scrappy says, so we've tended to the people with no hands or brains. Nice. We are completely doomed. There was also this spotted though as well in private matches, that the player and bot count has gone, well, potential player and bot count has gone from 12 up to 24. So I think that's a good change, to be fair. You could add way more bots back in the day. And Dashy obviously is pretty happy about this. We know that Dashy loves getting these bot matches and everything. So Dashy's absolutely loving life. Have a look at this type of stuff. And there was also this spotted as well between, well, Sib and Dashy over the last couple of days. Now, Sib has been a pretty outspoken player, really, over the last couple of years. You remember when Sib got into that drama way back in MW19 when he called an OpTic fan in his chat a certain F-slur, shall we say. He then got, like, suspended or, I don't know, FaZe. They got rid of him and then they brought him back and I was like, okay, whatever, fair enough. Young, made a mistake, we move on type thing. And Sib, what was it the other day? He talked about the Ghosty situation, right? That maybe he's on a certain bit of bombarding before the matches. So Sib just can't keep his mouth shut, can he? And, well, this is when we get up to the present day. Now, the frustrating thing about this story to me is that the Women's CoD League, like that Alicat has done a great job setting up and running and orchestrating. And sure, there's been problems. There's always going to be problems. But, you know, the only time that it gets the attention from this side of the community is when there's some crazy drama going on, you know? Like, the amount of people that are talking about this, like, WXC, kind of Women's CoD League, as of today, is, you know, it obviously blew up last night, but for all the wrong reasons, effectively, right? Like, I do agree with Alicat's take that it would be nice if, you know, people were as supportive of this Women's CoD side that they are about just committed to bring in the negative energy when the time comes. But, you know, having said that, there is definitely some meat on the bone of this topic. So I think it was this tweet last night that really kicked this whole thing off. Firstly, I don't know if any of this would have happened if the font was a bit better, because that looks like an 8 at first glance. Now, it is a 0, but, you know, good font here, the 0 should have the line going diagonally to make sure it's a 0 rather than an O, like a letter O. If you put the line across, then it looks like an 8. So it looks like aBeZy has dropped an 8.96 at hardpoint, a 4.58 that would be, but it's actually a 0 in the search, and then a 2.38 that actually is an 8, I think, in the control. But actually, of course, that's a 0.96. So then Sib drops this tweet, and like, I screenshot this within about 30 seconds, because we obviously knew this was getting deleted. Now, Sib did delete this tweet, but he still, you know, kind of doubled down, and we'll see on that in a second. So as Sib says, so we have grown men playing in a female Call of Duty league. Now, I do feel like this is an inevitable talking point at some point with all of these kind of women's female CoD leagues and everything like this, or just leagues in general in other sports and esports, as we'll get into here in a second. My overall opinion is that if the WXC is set up for women, for non-binary, for trans players, and that's who plays in the league, then I just don't see a problem with it, right? It's not an official CoD League mandated league, so, you know, I don't know if the CoD League will care about somebody's statement and the discussion on this over the last day or so. Obviously, it's a big talking point in Valorant as well, because that's what the game changers stuff tends to be. And obviously, this is a highly controversial subject, right, for multiple different reasons that Simp just decides to dive straight into the deep end of. So there's a few things to say on this, really, because it's been a major topic in sports for several years now. Like, I used to swim when I was younger, so I've followed relatively closely the Leah Thomas saga over in the swimming side, and actually it was pointed out to me that Riley Gaines, who was one of the chief kind of protagonists of that whole story, actually quote tweeted this. So she quote tweeted the Alicat tweet. For some reason it's not appearing on my end, but you can see it. This was the tweet basically that she quote tweets, and she was one of the, effectively, Leah Thomas, if you guys aren't aware, trans swimmer, competed in women's swimming competitions, won an awful lot, and then many female swimmers were speaking up against this and pushing back. I think there's a lot of mental gymnastics that's going on for people in regular sports to, you know, convince themselves that the reality of the situation is different. Now, in esports, I simply don't know the answer to these questions. In regular sports where there's more physicality involved, then sure, but in esports, I don't really know the answer to this question. It's a difficult one to come up with an explanation for. There's people that talk about golf as well, right? Because in golf, you can get the top kind of female players on the ladies PGA Tour. They can drive the ball nearly as far or just as far as some of the shorter hitters on the men's tour. But is their short game as good? Not necessarily. And even like, I think the putting numbers, I don't know, there's interesting analysis on women's putting on the PGA Tour, whatever, versus men's putting, because you'd think that, well, in that sense, it should be the same. There should be no physical differences there, but the numbers don't necessarily indicate that. So there's a question as to why. Is that genetic? Is that cultural? The same argument is made in esports as well, because in the Valorant Game Changers stuff, many of the best players are trans players, you know, and the league is designed that way. So there's a big debate on it. Obviously, as Alicat says, the differences in performance between males and females is cultural, not genetic, and I don't think it's worth understating the importance of the cultural differences, the fact that, you know, it's not looked upon in the same way for women to play CoD than men to play CoD, and like the impact that has when you get to the top 1% of players is, I think, very substantial. But, you know, it's a debate that will continue on. In sports, maybe in some sense it's been settled. In esports, there is still a big question to be had on this. So anyway, there was lots of reaction, understandably so, here from Infinity, and as Parasite goes on to say, I'm in the boat where I have zero issue with how people identify themselves or sexual preferences, etc. However, you can't deny statistics that genetic men have an advantage in sports and even esports. Not sure when they'll be aligned to on either of these matters, but it's an interesting topic to have either way. And, you know, so Infinity goes on to reply, you know, describing Mizu as a grown man who's transphobic, and as Parasite says, I don't think that he, this meaning Sib, has any hatred in his heart. He's just a child and he doesn't know how to convey his thoughts properly. That is the majority of our community, right? So Parasite trying to throw Sib a lifeline here and saying, look, Sib, you know, you can back down or whatever, you can say what you said. And Sib just says, I'm a grown-ass man, Hagrid. So, I mean, you just got to almost respect how just blunt this guy is. And Sib actually does go on to reply directly here and says, I have no issue with other people and what they decide to do with their bodies or their sexuality. Was looking for some clarifications so you can keep misconstruing my views and go F yourself. And then he says, or be better with your comprehension. I put a question mark at the end. Nowhere did I say I'm against people, what they do themselves. I don't care. It doesn't involve me. And yeah, fantastic end to the statement here, right? So good debate. I just think in general, I wish people were just nicer to each other, really. And I do find it somewhat frustrating when you get this whole, the drama blows up for like the wrong reasons, if you know what I'm saying. I guess the question here is like whether there would be any reaction to this situation. We know that Cammy had to go through that whole sensitivity training for saying, you know, a certain C word a couple of years ago now. And I thought this is pretty funny actually from Shah. Sim's next interview with Alicat about to be very interesting indeed. What happens next time, right? So I guess time will only tell on this one. But very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
Oh. Is that because... Why do you have that?
Okay, so you know how I told you, you know, like in Valorant, they have Radiant, it's the highest level, and there's only like 1,000. This is their version of that. It's the highest rank you can be. And so if you're in the top 250 out of the thousands, tens of thousands of people playing, you'll be on this leaderboard. But previously, they only had like current pro players that would have a banner like this, like if they're in the league.
Oh, so do you get it because you're like of a league?
No, it's because I jerked off Spencer.
Really?
Yeah.
No way. Spencer coming in the clutch, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and he finished quick too.
That's actually pretty cool.
It was pretty easy. But no, yeah, that's exactly why. Because LA Thieves.
Wait,